homeless boy unknowingly changed the future of a wealthy expecting woman, though their first meeting was anything but gentle. "Get out of here, kid! You're scaring my customers!" barked Anderson, the security guard of an upscale shopping mall, as he shoved a 15-year-old who had only tried to escape the pouring rain under the golden canopy of the entrance. Kevin Williams hit the wet ground, his already torn clothes soaking deeper into the dirty puddle beneath him. Well-dressed women turned away in disgust, while suited men whispered comments about people like him who didn't belong in such places. The rhythm of rain striking the glass doors blended with murmurs of disapproval echoing through the elegant hall. "Look at him! He shouldn't even be here!" scoffed Patricia Blackwell, a well-known socialite who loved to flaunt her charity events in magazines. Adjusting her luxury handbag on her shoulder, she made sure her voice carried. "Kids like that are nothing but trouble. Security should do a better job." Kevin pushed himself up slowly, wiping blood from his knee with the back of his hand. At only 15, he had already learned there were places where people like him were not welcome, especially not here, where the air smelled of perfume and money. His mother used to say that life would change one day, but she had left 3 years earlier, taking with her nothing but promises, leaving Kevin to cling to the hope she once planted. Everyone expected him to run, humiliated and defeated. Instead, Kevin stood tall, his calm gaze unsettling those around him. His eyes revealed a quiet strength and intelligence that no one there had anticipated. Anderson, the guard, stepped forward for another shove, more violent this time. But then a sharp, muffled sound cut through the chatter. Someone had collapsed. Not far away, hidden among decorative plants, a blonde woman in her 30s lay sprawled on the polished marble floor. A crimson stain spread quickly beneath her head. Her hands trembled as her body convulsed. Victoria Hartwell, heiress to a real estate fortune worth millions, was unconscious and clearly in distress. Her elegant dress was torn and stained, while her jewelry scattered across the ground like fallen stars. A pearl necklace, worth more than most people earned in a year, had snapped, scattering across the floor. Nobody had noticed her fall. They were too busy mocking a boy who had nothing. The cruel irony was that while they judged the innocent, a true emergency unfolded right under their noses. Kevin scanned the scene with startling clarity. The same people who mocked him seconds earlier carried on, chatting idly, oblivious to the real danger a few feet away. The guard scrolled on his phone. Patricia touched up her lipstick. The wealthy crowd continued as if nothing had happened. Kevin moved silently toward the woman. Her breathing was shallow, her lips turning pale. He could see she was losing blood fast, and she was also in labor, something he recognized from seeing women in his community go through similar struggles. Without hesitation, he stripped off his wet shirt, pressing it firmly against her wound to slow the bleeding. With steady care, he shifted her on her side so she could breathe better. Then, filling his lungs, he shouted with all his strength, "Help! Someone needs urgent medical attention here. She's bleeding badly." The crowd froze, as if waking from a trance. The guard rushed toward the sound, followed by the curious onlookers. What they saw made them gasp. A shirtless boy kneeling beside a wealthy woman, his hands pressing against her wound. And then came the accusation. "My God! He attacked her!" Patricia shrieked, pointing dramatically at Kevin as if she'd caught a criminal in the act. "I knew this would happen. Call the police right now." Anderson yanked Kevin's arm back with brutal force, twisting it until the boy let out a cry of pain. "You little punk, what did you do to her? Speak!" "I didn't do anything. She was already hurt when I found her. She needs a doctor now." Kevin tried to explain, but his words were buried under the roar of the crowd. "Thief! Delinquent! Look what he did to this poor woman!" The shouts hit him like stones. Smartphones popped up everywhere, recording the scene from every angle. Kevin knew what would happen next. His face would spread across social media as yet another dangerous kid, a living target for the stereotypes these people wore like a badge of honor. But while the storm of voices swelled around him, Kevin's focus never wavered. He kept his hands pressed firmly on the woman's wound, refusing to let go even as Anderson twisted his arm harder. There was something in his eyes, calm, steady, and compassionate, that clashed with the picture the mob was trying to paint. Kevin had already lived enough to know real strength isn't loud. It grows in silence, sharpened by injustice, waiting for the right moment to break free. He memorized faces, names, every insult hurled at him. He stored it all away, like fuel for the day truth would finally matter. If you're drawn into this story of struggle and resilience and want to see how one unexpected act of courage can flip everything upside down, don't forget to subscribe. What comes next will leave you stunned. Just then, ambulance sirens pierced the chaos. Paramedics rushed in, but the scene had already been twisted into a lie. Anderson pinned Kevin to the marble wall while Patricia Blackwell, dripping in diamonds, performed for the cameras. "I saw it all," she declared dramatically. "That boy was hiding behind the plants. He waited for her to pass, then attacked her." Her ring sparkled as she gestured, and the phone zoomed in like vultures. Robert, the lead paramedic, crouched beside the woman, Victoria. He frowned. This injury came from a fall, not an assault, and someone gave her proper first aid. Whoever it was saved her life. "I helped her," Kevin shouted. "I know first aid. My mother—" "Shut your mouth, kid," Anderson barked, slamming his arm harder. "Nobody wants your lies." Patricia turned to the cameras, savoring the spotlight. This is what happens when we allow people like him in places like this. They lurk, waiting for victims. But then Victoria stirred. Her eyes flickered open, dazed but clear enough to form one question. "The boy, where's the boy who helped me?" Patricia rushed forward. "Don't worry, dear. We caught the criminal. You're safe now." "No." Victoria tried to sit up. "You don't understand. He saved me. I was fainting, and he was the only one who helped." "She's confused," Patricia insisted, her voice dripping with false authority. "Victims often get disoriented after being attacked." Kevin stayed quiet, calm despite the storm. He had already learned the cruel truth, that in this world, lies often traveled faster than truth. Still, he observed, storing details, Patricia's name linked to charity scandals, Anderson's wrist tattoo, proof of ties his mother once warned him about. "I want to talk to the boy," Victoria demanded. "That's not possible," a police officer cut in coldly. "He's coming with us for questioning." And then Kevin spoke. His voice was steady, cutting through the noise like a blade. "Mrs. Victoria, how are the babies?" The crowd fell silent. Victoria blinked, startled. How did you—" "Twins," Kevin said softly. "From the way you collapsed, one of them's in distress. That's why you fainted." Robert's head snapped up. "How does a boy your age know that?" Kevin lifted his chin, his voice carrying both sorrow and dignity. "My mother was an obstetric nurse at General Hospital. She taught me the signs of high-risk pregnancies before she passed away 3 years ago." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "He's right. I am expecting twins, and I was having contractions." Patricia felt her carefully built story beginning to crack, so she quickly shifted her tactics. "That doesn't change the fact that he was in a place he didn't belong," she said sharply. But Kevin's eyes told a different story now. They no longer carried the look of a cornered victim. They carried the sharp focus of someone thinking several steps ahead. He was connecting dots, observing, storing information. He noticed Patricia's diamonds flashing under the lights, Anderson's smug abuse of authority, the way they dismissed workers as if they were invisible. "You think you know me?" Kevin said quietly, his voice so steady that a few people instinctively leaned closer. "You think you can decide my story just by looking. But there are things you can't see." Even as officers handcuffed him and marched him to the waiting car, he didn't look down. His gaze swept over every face that had mocked or accused him, locking each one in memory. Patricia waved at cameras like a celebrated heroine. Anderson basked in praise for his swift action. The crowd dispersed, satisfied that they'd just watched their prejudices confirmed. What none of them understood was that this boy carried more than scraps of medical knowledge passed down from his mother. He carried something far stronger, the ability to turn injustice into fire, humiliation into resolve, and underestimation into strategy. Every insult, every shove, every false accusation, they were all sharpening him for what was coming. And without knowing it, his oppressors were writing the very script of their own downfall. At the police station, Kevin was shoved into a packed holding cell, the air thick with sweat, disinfectant, and despair. Other inmates sized him up with amused curiosity, too thin to be dangerous, too clean to be hardened. "Hey, kid," a tattooed man smirked. "What are you in for?" "I saved a woman's life," Kevin said flatly. The cell erupted with laughter. Meanwhile, in the city's most exclusive hospital, Victoria Hartwell was in the fight of her life. Specialists worked frantically to slow her contractions and protect the twins she was carrying. Between gasps of pain, she repeated the same words to every nurse and doctor who would listen. "The boy saved me. You've got the wrong person." Her personal physician, Dr. Marcus Steinberg, tried to soothe her. "Victoria, you need to focus on your children now. Let the authorities handle the rest." "No!" she cried, gripping his wrist with unexpected strength. "That boy knew I was carrying twins just by looking. He has medical training. I need my lawyer here now." 3 hours later, her demand reached Jonathan Pierce, the city's most feared defense attorney. Known for impossible wins and charging fees worth more than an average home, Pierce was not easily impressed. At first, he brushed off her story. "Victoria, you're exhausted. You're stressed. A street kid with medical knowledge, that doesn't add up." "Jonathan," she cut him off coldly, "I don't pay you to doubt me. I pay you to win impossible cases. Go to that police station." As Pierce reluctantly drove through the night, Patricia Blackwell was already basking in her spotlight. Dressed in a power suit worth a year's salary for most families, she spoke to 3 different TV crews. "This incident proves why stricter measures are necessary," she declared smoothly. "Shopping centers must remain safe for families. We can't allow them to turn into danger zones." Anderson, equally intoxicated by attention, gave interviews to private security blogs. "I knew there was something off about that kid," he lied with confidence. "My instincts are never wrong." Back in his cell, Kevin stayed silent, but his mind was racing. He replayed every moment, every lie, every detail of the mall. More importantly, he had noticed something no one else had. Victoria's fall had not been an accident. Finally, he was taken into interrogation. 2 weary detectives sat waiting, already convinced he was guilty. Detective Murphy, overweight and bored, barely looked up as he recited Kevin's rights. His breath smelled of stale coffee. "Look, kid, we've got witnesses, motive, evidence. Best thing you can do is confess. Maybe you'll catch a break." Kevin sat calmly. "I'd like to make a phone call." Murphy smirked. "Who are you gonna call? You don't have a lawyer." "Actually, yes," came a deep, authoritative voice from the doorway. Jonathan Pierce stepped in, his tailored suit cutting through the room like a blade. His presence shifted the entire atmosphere. "My client will not answer another question," he said firmly, "unless I am present." Pierce turned to the detectives, pointing at them as if they were unruly schoolchildren. "You have exactly 24 hours to bring me real evidence," he said, his voice sharp as steel. "If not, I'll sue this department for unlawful arrest and discrimination." Detective Murphy opened his mouth to protest, but Pierce cut him off. "Anne Murphy, before you embarrass yourself further, I suggest you review the mall's 16 security cameras. All of them." 2 hours later, Kevin walked out of the precinct, free on bail, courtesy of Victoria Hartwell. But this was only the beginning. Pierce led him to his office, a sleek fortress of glass and steel on the 40th floor, overlooking the city skyline. He clicked on a recorder. Start from the beginning, he instructed. Kevin spoke with surgical precision. He recalled every detail, the sound of footsteps, the angle of Victoria's fall, the mark on her wrist. The angle was wrong, Kevin explained. People who faint usually fall forward or to the side. She went backward, as if pushed, and the bruise on her wrist, someone grabbed her. Pierce froze mid-note, staring at the boy. You saw all that? Yes, Kevin said calmly. My mother taught me to observe everything. She said people like us need to be twice as sharp just to get half a chance. Pierce leaned back slowly, realization dawning. This wasn't an ordinary boy. This was someone forged by hardship, trained by survival. Kevin hadn't just noticed things. He had withheld details, storing them like weapons for the right time. Meanwhile, Patricia basked in television interviews, declaring herself a champion of public safety, while Anderson enjoyed job offers and praise for his supposed instincts. Neither had the faintest clue that their lives were about to be dismantled, piece by piece, by a relentless lawyer and a 15-year-old who could see truths adults chose to ignore. The revelation began inside Pierce's conference room. Officials, detectives, prosecutors, and reporters filled the space. Patricia and Anderson sat smugly at the table. A massive screen glowed to life. Camera 7, 3:42 p.m., Pierce announced, pressing play. Watch carefully. The footage showed Victoria walking near the decorative plants. Suddenly, Anderson appeared behind her, shoving her hard. Her head struck the marble. She collapsed instantly. That must be edited, Patricia stammered, her face draining of color. Camera 12, Pierce said coldly. Same moment, different angle. The second clip left no doubt, Anderson checking to see if Victoria was unconscious before walking away. Anderson tried to rise from his chair, but two security officers hired by Pierce forced him back down. I can explain, he sputtered. She was acting suspiciously. Suspicious how? Pierce asked with acid sarcasm. By existing? By breathing? From Pierce's side, Kevin finally spoke. Camera 3 shows what happened 5 minutes earlier. Anderson takes a phone call, then looks directly at Victoria before moving toward her. The video confirmed it. Anderson's determined expression was unmistakable. Patricia shifted uncomfortably. That proves nothing. Even if Anderson misjudged, I only reported what I saw. Pierce smirked, sliding a folder across the table. Interesting. Phone records show 3 calls between you and Anderson in the 20 minutes before the incident. And then there's this text. He read aloud. Need a favor. Hartwell woman will be at the mall. Make sure she has an accident that looks convincing. Payment, $50,000. The room fell silent. Patricia went pale, her hands trembling. That's fake. I never sent that. Digital forensics has already confirmed it, Pierce replied, his tone merciless. And these bank transfers from your account to Anderson's over the last 6 months? Proof this wasn't the first favor. Anderson's face collapsed under the weight of evidence. Sweat dripped down his temple. His lips trembled. Finally, he broke. Anderson finally cracked under the weight of the evidence. She promised me a better job, he blurted, his voice trembling. She said if I did a few small favors, she'd recommend me to the big security firms. He pointed at Patricia with a shaking hand. She planned everything. I just carried it out. Shut up, you fool! Patricia screamed, her carefully curated composure collapsing in front of the cameras. Kevin stood slowly, his calm presence commanding more attention than her outburst. May I ask, he said evenly, why you wanted to hurt Victoria Hartwell? Patricia's eyes burned with fury. As if you would ever understand. People like you don't know how the world works. Try me, Kevin replied, his tone steady. Her voice broke into bitterness. Victoria inherited everything, an empire, connections, wealth, and now she's pregnant with twins who will inherit even more. Meanwhile, people like me fight twice as hard just to be noticed. Kevin's voice cut through the room like ice. So your solution was to end the lives of innocent children? The chilling clarity in his words made the room fall silent. At that moment, the door opened. Victoria entered, moving carefully but with determination. The twins had survived, and she had insisted on witnessing the truth. "Patricia," she said, her voice steady with controlled grief. "We've known each other for 10 years. I called you a friend. I trusted you. And you tried to take my children's lives out of jealousy." Patricia's mask cracked. "Victoria, you have to understand. I was drowning. My company was going under." Pierce's voice was merciless as he laid another file on the table. "Your company collapsed because you embezzled $400,000 meant for children's charities. We have the records." Victoria turned to Kevin, her eyes filled with emotion. "You saved my children twice. First, when you acted in the mall, then when you uncovered the truth." Kevin gave a humble nod. "My mother always told me, justice isn't revenge. Justice is truth being revealed." The detectives who had once arrested him shifted uncomfortably. Murphy tried to stammer an apology, but Kevin interrupted gently. "You acted on the information you had. What matters is that the truth is clear now." Patricia and Anderson were taken away in handcuffs, charged with conspiracy, fraud, and attempted murder. Kevin stood quietly, his calm presence contrasting the storm of flashing cameras and frantic reporters. Pierce approached him. "Kevin, Victoria would like to make you an offer. She wants to sponsor your entire medical education, tuition, residency, everything." For the first time in days, Kevin smiled. "I'll accept on one condition." Pierce raised an eyebrow. "Which is? I want to specialize in emergency medicine, to be ready when people like Victoria need help the most." Victoria's eyes brimmed with tears. "Kevin, I can never thank you enough." "You don't have to," he replied gently. "Just raise your children to believe kindness still exists in this world." As the handcuffs clicked around Patricia's wrists and Anderson was led away, one haunting question lingered in the air. How had a 15-year-old boy from the streets not only survived such a cruel conspiracy, but turned it into the very opportunity that would define his destiny? 5 years later, Dr. Kevin Williams strode confidently through the halls of the same hospital where he once lay broken after being struck by a car. But now, at 20, he wore a white coat and a stethoscope, no longer a patient, but a rising star in emergency medicine, one of the most competitive specialties in the field. "Dr. Williams," the head nurse called, handing him a chart. "We've got an obstetric emergency coming in." Kevin nodded firmly. His reputation wasn't just built on skill, it was the way he treated every patient, whether wealthy or poor, with equal dignity, because he had never forgotten where he came from, and the day the world tried to write his story for him. That morning, Victoria arrived at the hospital with her 5-year-old twins, Henry and Emma, for a prenatal appointment. The children spotted Kevin in the hallway and sprinted toward him. "Uncle Kevin!" they shouted, wrapping their arms around his legs. Kevin knelt to their height, smiling. "And how are my future doctors today?" Henry proudly announced he wanted to be a pediatrician like Uncle Kevin, while Emma said she dreamed of becoming a nurse to help people in need. Victoria's eyes shone with pride. "They've already learned that helping others is the greatest kind of wealth," she said softly, "and they know exactly who taught them that." Kevin had become more than a friend to the Hartwell family. He was a chosen brother, woven into their lives. Meanwhile, behind prison walls, Patricia Blackwell lived out a 15-year sentence. Once a socialite with influence, she was now remembered as the woman exposed for exploiting charities and plotting an unthinkable crime. Her downfall became a cautionary tale broadcast in documentaries nationwide. Anderson, released after 3 years, scraped by with odd jobs, forever barred from security work. Both were ghosts of the power they once craved. Pierce often visited Kevin at the hospital, watching him with a quiet respect. "You know, Kevin," he said one afternoon, "in 30 years of practicing law, your case taught me more about justice than any other." Kevin raised his eyes from a chart. "What do you mean?" "Justice isn't only about punishing the guilty," Pierce replied. "It's about giving people like you the chance to show the world who they truly are." That same day, Kevin received a letter written from prison. "Dr. Williams," it read, "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but you taught me that real wealth isn't what we take from the world, it's what we give back." Kevin folded the letter quietly. For him, it was never about forgiving or condemning. It was about choosing to build something greater than the pain inflicted on him. Dr. Marcus Steinberg, now Kevin's colleague, often told others, "He has something you can't learn in college, genuine compassion, born from knowing what it feels like to need help." Later, over coffee in the hospital cafeteria, Victoria shared exciting news. The Hartwell Williams Foundation for Medical Education has been approved. 50 full scholarships every year for underprivileged students. Kevin smiled. The idea had been his, transforming his own struggles into opportunities for others. "My mother always told me," he said softly, "when you're blessed, you have a duty to pass it on." "And you've passed it on in ways no one could have imagined," Victoria replied. "That 15-year-old boy who saved me didn't just save my life. He changed our family's entire vision of the world." That night, Kevin returned to his modest apartment near the hospital. On the wall hung his framed medical degree beside a photo of him with Victoria, Henry, and Emma. He had found a home, a family, and a purpose. 5 years earlier, Patricia and Anderson had tried to destroy him, using prejudice and lies. Today, he healed lives, built bridges, and turned every wound into wisdom. Kevin's ultimate revenge wasn't destruction. It was creation. He built a life so meaningful that those who once tried to break him had become irrelevant. He proved the most powerful truth of all. When you transform pain into purpose, every obstacle becomes a stepping stone. The best revenge isn't making your enemies pay. It's achieving a success so authentic and inspiring that they spend the rest of their days realizing they underestimated someone destined to illuminate the world. And if this story of resilience and redemption moved you, don't forget to subscribe, because more stories are coming, stories that prove our beginnings don't define us, but our choices do.